The organ swelled like a heartbeat on the verge of breaking, and that's when the doors at the back of the church creaked open. Michael stepped through, his tuxedo sharp as a knife's edge, arm linked with my cousin Sarah's, her smile radiant, his eyes fixed straight ahead, avoiding the sea of faces that included mine. I clutched the edge of the wooden pew until splinters bit into my palm, the world narrowing to that single, impossible truth. The man I'd loved in stolen moments was about to vow his life to someone else, and I was the fool who'd let him convince me it meant nothing. I remember the night we met like it was etched in the underbelly of my skull, raw, unfiltered, the kind of memory that hits you in the dead of night and steals your breath. It was a sticky July evening in 2023, the air thick with the hum of cicadas and the faint tang of barbecue smoke drifting from backyards in our sleepy corner of Ohio. I'd driven out to that dive bar on the edge of town, the Rusty Anchor, because the walls of my apartment felt like they were closing in after another brutal shift at the auto shop. At 28, I was Christopher Hayes, Chris to most folks, wrestling with the ghosts of a dead-end life. A dad who'd bailed when I was 10, a mom scraping by on diner tips, and this nagging ache in my chest that I'd buried under layers of grease-stained flannel and forced grins. Being gay in a place like Milford wasn't a death sentence anymore. Not exactly, but it wasn't a parade either. Folks whispered, jobs dried up, and family dinners turned into minefields of awkward silences. So yeah, I went looking for distraction, something easy to drown out the noise. The bar was half empty, the jukebox crooning some old Springsteen tune about glory days I'd never had. I nursed a Bud Light at the scarred oak counter when he walked in, tall, broad-shouldered, with that effortless swagger that screamed city boy slumming it in the sticks. Michael Reynolds. He had this mop of chestnut hair that fell just shy of his collar, green eyes that caught the neon glow like they held secrets, and a jawline that could have been carved from the same stubborn rock as the Ohio River banks. He ordered a whiskey neat, his voice low and smooth, laced with that faint Chicago accent that made everything sound like a confession. Our eyes met in the mirror behind the bottles, and that was it. The spark, the pull, like gravity deciding to rewrite the rules just for us. We didn't talk much at first. It was all sidelong glances, the brush of his knee against mine when he slid onto the stool next to me. "Rough day?" he asked finally, tilting his head with a half-smile that crinkled the corners of his eyes. I shrugged, muttering something about busted transmissions and bad luck. He laughed, this deep, rumbling sound that vibrated through me, and before I knew it, we were trading stories like old war buddies. He was 30, a financial consultant who'd just relocated from the Windy City for a job at some firm in Columbus, closer to family, he said vaguely, dodging details. Single, unattached, the kind of guy who collected regrets like baseball cards but wore them light. Or so I thought. 2 drinks in, the bar's haze wrapped around us like a blanket, and he leaned in close enough that I could smell the cedar of his cologne mixed with the sharp bite of whiskey. You ever feel like you're just waiting for the other shoe to drop? His words hung there, heavy with something unspoken. I nodded, my throat tight, because hell yes, I did, every damn day. That's when he kissed me. Not tentative, not testing the waters, but full on, his hand cupping the back of my neck like he owned the territory. The world blurred. The clink of glasses, the murmur of truckers at the pool table, all fading to white noise. We stumbled out to my truck in the gravel lot, the summer heat pressing down like a lover's weight, and what followed was a blur of urgent hands and whispered promises in the cab. Nothing more than bodies colliding in the dark, or so I told myself the morning after. But it wasn't simple. Not even close. He left his number scrawled on a napkin, and I texted him before noon, my heart pounding like I'd run a marathon. We met again that weekend, this time at a state park overlook, the Ohio hills rolling out like a green sea under a sky bruised with storm clouds. Picnics turned into hikes, hikes into lazy afternoons tangled in the bed of my truck, talking about everything and nothing. He opened up in fragments, a Catholic upbringing that left scars, a brother who'd gone off the rails on opioids, the pressure of being the responsible one in a family that expected perfection. I shared my own wreckage, the bullying in high school that sent me spiraling into silence, the first boyfriend who'd ghosted me after his folks found out, the way I'd learned to compartmentalize my heart like it was a faulty engine part. By August, it felt real. Too real. We'd sneak away to Cincinnati for weekends, holding hands in dive diners where no one knew us, watching indie flicks at art house theaters that smelled like popcorn and rebellion. One night, under the flickering marquee of a drive-in showing some forgotten rom-com, he turned to me with those eyes, soft as river mist, and said, "Chris, this. You. It's the first thing that's felt right in years." My chest cracked open right there, vulnerability spilling out like oil from a cracked line. I believed him. God, I believed him. But secrets have a way of festering, don't they? Michael's phone would buzz at odd hours, and he'd step outside, voice dropping to murmurs I couldn't catch. "Family stuff," he'd say with a tight smile, changing the subject to the Reds' latest slump or my mom's killer apple pie. I let it slide because pushing felt like tempting fate, and in Milford, fate had a habit of biting back hard. My cousin Sarah was the wild card I never saw coming. She was 26, the golden child of our sprawling Hayes clan, blonde curls, marketing degree from OSU, the kind of girl who volunteered at church bake sales and dreamed of picket fences. We'd grown up thick as thieves, summers splashing in Lake Erie, trading ghost stories under quilt forts. When she announced her engagement in September, the family erupted in joy. "Michael's perfect," she gushed over Thanksgiving turkey, her eyes sparkling as she described this whirlwind romance with the charming consultant she'd met through mutual friends in Columbus. I smiled through the ache, congratulating her with a hug that felt like betrayal. It wasn't until the rehearsal dinner in November that the pieces started to snag. Sarah's bachelorette weekend had her out of town, and Michael, ever the dutiful fiancé, offered to swing by my place to catch up on guy stuff, beers and football on the flat screen. We ended up on my sagging couch, the game forgotten, his hand tracing lazy circles on my thigh. "Missed this," he murmured, pulling me close. It was like old times, fire reigniting in the quiet of my living room, until his phone lit up with a photo from Sarah, her in a tiara, arms around bridesmaids, caption reading girls' night out. "Can't wait to marry my forever." Ring. He froze, the screen glowing like an accusation. "Shit," he whispered, shoving it away. I pulled back, the air turning thick. "What's going on, Mike?" "Really?" He ran a hand through his hair, eyes darting like a cornered animal. "It's complicated, Chris. My family's traditional. Dad's got health issues, expects grandkids, the whole legacy bullshit. Sarah's great, but it's not." He trailed off, the unsaid hanging between us like smoke. "Not what? Not love? Not real?" I pressed, voice cracking. "Then why? Why her?" He looked at me then, raw and wrecked. "Because it's safe. And you're everything I want but can't have. Not here. Not yet." The words landed like punches, each one bruising deeper. Safe. Like I was the risk, the scandal, the thing to hide in the glove compartment of his life. I stormed out into the November chill, leaves crunching under my boots like brittle bones. He called after me, but I didn't stop, couldn't. Days blurred into a haze of rage and regret. The shop radio blaring country anthems about lost love that felt too on the nose. Sarah texted updates, venue confirmations, floral arrangements, her excitement bubbling over like champagne. I played the supportive cousin, attending fittings and tastings, all while the secret gnawed at me like rust on a frame. Michael and I didn't speak, but his texts piled up, apologies, pleas, fragments of the man I'd fallen for. "I love you, Chris. This isn't over." Lies, I told myself. All of it. Christmas came like a freight train, family gatherings in Mom's cramped duplex strung with lights that flickered like false hope. Sarah and Michael were the stars, toasts raised to their storybook romance. Uncle Ray slapped Michael on the back, booming about continuing the family line. I excused myself to the porch, the cold biting through my jacket, when Sarah found me. "You okay, cuz? You've been quiet." Her concern was genuine, blue eyes wide and trusting. I forced a laugh. "Just allergies. Happy for you, Sar." She hugged me tight, whispering, "He's the one, Chris. Feels like fate." Fate. Yeah, right. The wedding loomed in June, invitations arriving like subpoenas. I RSVP'd yes, because backing out would have raised flags, and in our tight-knit world, flags were the last thing I needed. Michael cornered me at the engagement party in May, pulling me into the shadows of the backyard tent while polka music thumped from the speakers. "We need to talk." he said, voice urgent. His hand grazed mine, electric even in anger. I can't do this without you understanding. I yanked away. Understanding what? That you're throwing us away for a white picket fence. His face crumpled. It's not that simple. My dad's dying, Chris. Cancer. He wants to see me settled, happy. Sarah. She deserves better than being my beard, but it's the only way to keep the peace. Beard. The word twisted in my gut, reductive, ugly, a lie wrapped in necessity. We argued in whispers, the party swirling oblivious around us. Then come out, I hissed. Fight for us. He shook his head, tears glinting. You don't get it. This town's poison for people like us. I've seen it. Friends run out, jobs tanked. I can't lose everything. And there it was, the chasm. His fear versus my fury, his survival instinct clashing with my desperate need for truth. I left him there, the taste of betrayal sour on my tongue, vowing to endure the wedding like a soldier at a funeral. But endurance has limits, and mine shattered the moment those church doors opened. The sanctuary of St. Mary's Catholic Church in downtown Milford hadn't changed since my confirmation 12 years ago. Same vaulted ceilings echoing with hymns, same stained glass saints gazing down with judgmental eyes, same polished pews worn smooth by generations of Hayeses and Reynoldses mingling in holy matrimony. I'd arrived early, slipping into a back row like a ghost, my rented suit itching against my skin. Mom had fussed over my tie that morning, her hands trembling slightly from the early onset arthritis that stole her diner shifts. You look handsome, baby, she'd said, eyes misty with that unconditional love that made the lies harder to swallow. Sarah's gonna shine today. I nodded, throat too tight for words, and drove the 40 minutes from my apartment, radio silence to avoid any song that might crack me open. Family filtered in. Aunt Linda with her perm and perpetual gossip, Uncle Ray nursing a flask under his sport coat, cousins corralling toddlers with promises of cake. They buzzed about the floral arches, peonies and roses, so elegant. And Michael's doting nature, how he'd surprised Sarah with a custom veil from some Chicago boutique. I smiled through it all, nodding like a bobblehead, my mind replaying our last fight in loops of what-ifs. What if I'd pushed harder? What if I'd walked away sooner? What if love was just a fool's currency in a town that traded in conformity? The organist struck up Pachelbel's canon, and the bridal party processed down the aisle in a pastel parade. Sarah's college roommate as matron of honor, her sister bearing the rings on a velvet pillow. Then Sarah appeared, arm in arm with Grandpa Hayes, her gown a cascade of ivory silk that caught the light like fresh snow. She was breathtaking, radiant in a way that twisted the knife deeper, because she deserved this joy, this unshadowed happiness. Her eyes scanned the crowd, landing on me with a wink and a mouthed love you, cuz. I managed a thumbs up, my vision blurring. And then, him. The doors parted fully, and Michael Reynolds stepped forward, every inch the groom from Central Casting. Tux tailored to perfection, boutonniere of white gardenias pinned to his lapel, hair slicked back with just enough rebellion to curl at the ends. But it was his face that gutted me, stoic mask cracking at the edges, a flicker of something haunted in those green eyes as they swept the nave. Did he see me? Did he feel the weight of us in that split-second glance? Or was I already erased, a footnote in his march toward respectability? He took his place at the altar, the priest intoning welcomes and blessings, but I heard none of it. My pulse thundered, drowning out the readings from Corinthians about love being patient, kind, enduring all things. Enduring. Yeah, I'd endured. Nights alone staring at the ceiling, deleting his voicemails before they could unravel me, showing up to family brunches with hollow cheeks and forced laughs. Sarah joined him, their hands clasping in that ceremonial grip, and the congregation sighed collectively, a wave of approval washing over the room. The vows began, and that's when the dam broke. Michael, do you take Sarah Elizabeth Hayes to be your lawfully wedded wife? The priest's voice boomed, expectant. Michael's lips parted, a hesitation so brief it might have been my imagination, a microsecond where the world held its breath. I do, he said, clear and steady, the words landing like bullets in my chest. Sarah's I do followed, joyful and pure, sealing the pact. Rings exchanged, a chaste kiss pressed to her knuckles. Chaste, because even in perfection, Michael always held back just enough. I bolted then, or tried to, legs leaden as I eased from the pew toward the side exit. Whispers trailed me. Chris, you okay? But I waved them off, bursting into the vestibule where the air hung heavy with incense and regret. Leaning against the cool stone wall, I gasped like a fish on dry land, tears hot and unbidden. How had it come to this? A year of stolen sunrises and midnight confessions reduced to this farce, this public crucifixion of what we dared to dream. The ceremony dragged on, communion, recessional, but I couldn't go back. Instead, I wandered the church grounds, the June sun beating down on the manicured lawn dotted with wildflowers. Memories assaulted me. Michael and I picnicking here last fall, feeding each other strawberries under the old oak, laughing until our sides ached. This could be us, he joked once, tracing my palm with his thumb. Someday, the lie that kept me tethered. By the time the bells tolled the recessional, I'd composed myself enough to face the receiving line outside. Smiles plastered, hugs exchanged, the scent of Sarah's Chanel No. 5 mingling with Michael's aftershave as the wedding party emerged in a flutter of confetti and cheers. She found me first, bouquet in hand, cheeks flushed. Chris, where'd you disappear to? I needed my favorite cousin up front. I pulled her into a bear hug, inhaling the lavender of her perfume. Wouldn't miss it for the world, Sar. You're stunning. And she was untouched by the shadows I carried. Michael hung back, greeting guests with handshakes and photos, but our eyes locked across the crowd. His smile faltered, a question in his gaze. I turned away, joining the procession to the reception hall, a renovated barn on the edge of town, strung with fairy lights and bales of hay for that rustic chic vibe Sarah had obsessed over. The drive there was a blur, classic rock on the radio mocking me with lyrics about broken hearts and open roads. The hall thrummed with life. Open bar flowing with craft IPAs and mimosas, a bluegrass band fiddling covers of Johnny Cash, tables groaning under pulled pork sliders and cornbread muffins. Toasts kicked off with Uncle Ray's rambling ode to family values and fresh starts, his flask winking from his pocket. Sarah's best friend followed, gushing about their soulmate spark at a charity gala, the same gala where, Michael had confessed to me once, he'd been set up as her blind date by meddling aunts. It was supposed to be one night, he'd said, voice laced with guilt, to shut everyone up. I nursed a ginger ale at the edge of the dance floor, watching couples sway to Sweet Caroline. Mom pulled me onto the floor for a mother-son spin, her laughter light despite the lines etched around her eyes. Your dad's watching from up there, proud as punch, she said, squeezing my hand. I swallowed the lump in my throat, spotting Michael across the room, Sarah's head on his shoulder as they slow danced. He looked resigned, not joyful, not even content, just enduring like the rest of us. The cake cutting came next, a towering thing of lemon chiffon and buttercream, Sarah feeding Michael a bite with giggles while cameras flashed. I slipped out for air, the barn doors creaking as I stepped into the twilight meadow. Fireflies blinked like distant stars, the air cooling to that perfect summer hush. Footsteps crunched behind me, Chris. Michael's voice, rough as gravel. I didn't turn. Go back inside. Your wife's waiting. He closed the distance, breath warm on my neck. Please, just hear me out. I whirled, fury igniting. Hear you out? After you stood there and said, I do, like it was nothing? Like we were nothing? His face twisted, hands raking through his hair. It wasn't nothing. God, Chris, it's everything. But this, marrying Sarah, it's the only way to buy time. Dad's got months left. If I come out now, it'll kill him. The family's already fractured. I can't be the final crack. I laughed, bitter and broken. Time for what? To string me along like some dirty secret? You think I want to be your side piece while you play house? He reached for me, but I jerked back. You're not. Save it. The words sliced the air. You made your choice. Live with it. I stormed off toward the parking lot, gravel biting my dress shoes, the reception's laughter echoing like mockery. In my truck, engine roaring to life. I peeled out, tires spitting dust, heading nowhere but away. The next days were a void. I called off work, claiming flu, and holed up with takeout Thai and Netflix binges that blurred into insomnia. Mom stopped by with soup, her worry lines deepening. Weddings stir up old ghosts, huh? She said softly, not pressing but knowing. Sarah texted photos. Honeymoon plans to the Smokies. Michael's arm around her in every shot. Paradise awaits. Miss you already. I replied with hearts and thumbs ups, the hypocrisy burning. A week later, Michael's call pierced the silence. I let it ring, then buzzed to voicemail. His message, Chris, I fucked up. Sarah knows. About us. We need to talk. For her sake, if not ours. My blood ran cold. Knows. The fallout I dreaded, the bomb I'd helped arm. I drove to their starter home in Milford's suburbs that night, the porch light a beacon of dread. Sarah answered, eyes red-rimmed, but steady, no bridal glow left. Come in, she said, voice even. Michael paced the living room, a ghost in khakis. She poured coffee, black and scalding, and sat across from me. He told me everything. The hookup, the affair, call it what you want. Her words were steel, but her gaze held no hate, just hurt carved deep. I thought it was real, Chris. With him. But it was always you in the shadows. I stammered apologies, the room spinning. Sorry, I never meant, she held up a hand. Don't. This isn't just on you. Michael's been lying to all of us, to his dying dad, to me, to himself. But you? Your family. That betrayal. It guts me. Michael sank onto the couch, head in hands. I'm sorry, he choked. I thought I could compartmentalize. Protect everyone. Protect. Sarah's voice cracked. You used me as a shield, Mike. And Chris, you let him. The air thickened with unspoken accusations. My silence at the altar, his vows like vows to me unspoken. She stood abruptly. I need space. Both of you out. We left in separate cars, the night swallowing us whole. Michael's text followed. Meet me at the Overlook. Please. Against every screaming instinct. I went. The same park where we'd first whispered futures. He waited on the hood of his sedan, stars wheeling overhead. She's filing papers, he said flatly. Annulment. Dad. He found out too. Collapsed last night. The news hit like a sucker punch. Jesus, Mike. I sat beside him, the metal warm from the engine. He leaned into me, shoulders shaking. I ruined everything. For what? Fear. His confession poured out then. Years of denial, therapy sessions abandoned, the closet's suffocating grip. I love you, Chris. Always have. But I don't know how to fix this. We talked till dawn, words weaving a fragile bridge over the chasm. No easy fixes, no Hollywood bows, just two broken men under an indifferent sky, grasping for redemption. The weeks after the wedding that wasn't blurred into a fever dream of loose ends and lingering wounds. Sarah moved back to her apartment above the coffee shop she managed, the one with the chalkboard menu boasting pumpkin spice, everything, and local love, vibes that now felt like irony's cruel joke. She didn't ghost me. Our bond was forged in too many shared secrets for that. But our calls were clipped, laced with the caution of fresh scars. I need time, Chris, she'd say, her voice a threadbare whisper, to unlearn trusting the men in this family. It stung, deservedly so, because she'd been collateral in my selfishness, a pawn in Michael's panic and my paralysis. I'd replay our confrontation endlessly, her eyes, so like mine in their haze blue, pleading for honesty I'd withheld. Family first, always, except when it cost you your heart. Michael's world imploded with surgical precision. His father's diagnosis had been stage 4 pancreatic, the kind that moves fast and forgives nothing. The news of the sham marriage leaked through hospital whispers, turning bedside vigils into battlegrounds. Uncle Ray, Michael's uncle by marriage, the family patriarch with his John Deere hat and zero tolerance for deviancy, called a powwow at the VFW hall, Bibles thumped like gavels. I wasn't invited, but Mom relayed the highlights over meatloaf. Accusations of scandal, threats to cut Michael from the will, Sarah's annulment painted as his moral failing. Poor boys carrying the weight, Mom said, forking potatoes with a sigh. Reminds me of your daddy, running from truths till they catch you. I visited Michael at the hospital, sneaking in after visiting hours with styrofoam coffee and vending machine Snickers. His dad, Mr. Reynolds, Tom to those who earned it, was a husk of the barrel-chested mill worker who'd terrorized little league umps. Gaunt cheeks, yellowed skin, eyes sunken but sharp with recrimination. You think this fixes you? He'd rasped at Michael during one vigil. for lines snaking like accusations. Marrying that girl to hide? God's got no patience for cowards. Michael absorbed it silently, the dutiful son to the end, while I lingered in the hallway, eavesdropping like a masochist. Our stolen moments in those sterile corridors were lifelines, his hand brushing mine behind a potted fern, a quick forehead kiss in the elevator's hum. I came out to him. Michael confessed one midnight, slumped in a vinyl chair. Told him about us. The whole messy truth. My heart stuttered. And he laughed hollow, called me an abomination, then asked if you were at least a good man. The absurdity cracked us open, laughter mingling with tears, a brief rebellion against the dying light. But peace was fleeting. Milford's rumor mill churned. Whispers at the IGA about that Reynolds boy and his cousin-in-law, sideways glances at the gas station where I'd filled up since I was 16. My boss at the shop, old man Hargrove, pulled me aside one shift, grease rag in hand. Heard about your involvement. Don't let it bleed into work, Hayes. Folks talk. Involvement. Like I was a side plot in their small-town soap. I nodded, swallowing bile. But the isolation crept in. Nights alone with the TV's blue glow, friends ghosting texts, the ache of what we'd lost. The real fracture came in August, Tom's final rally. A hospice bed in the family farmhouse, monitors beeping like accusatory metronomes. Michael called me frantic. He wants to see you. Now. I drove through sheets of rain, wipers slapping rhythm like a war drum, arriving soaked and shaken. Tom lay propped on pillows, oxygen mask fogging with each labored breath. His eyes, faded green like Michael's, fixed on me with unnerving clarity. Hayes boy, he wheezed, waving off the mask. Come closer. I perched on the bed's edge, Michael's hand heavy on my shoulder. Sir, I started, but he cut me off. Don't sir me. You're the reason my son's throwing his life away. The words landed soft, but lethal. Michael tensed. Dad, shut it. I raised you better than lies, boy. But if this... He gestured vaguely between us, tubes rattling. That if this is what you choose, own it. Don't half-ass it like that wedding farce. A cough racked him, and in the silence that followed, something shifted, not forgiveness, but a grudging truce. Take care of him, Hayes, or I'll haunt you both. He died 2 days later, the room echoing with Michael's sobs, me holding him as the rain lashed the windows like judgment. The funeral was a circus of hypocrisy, black suits and casseroles, eulogies glossing over the rough edges, Uncle Ray presiding like a televangelist. Sarah showed, distant but decorous, slipping me a note. We talk soon? Healing starts somewhere. I nodded across the gravesite, the casket lowered under a sky the color of grief. Afterward, at the wake in the church basement, deviled eggs and weak punch. Michael pulled me aside to the coat room, door clicking shut. Marry me, he said, no preamble, eyes fierce. For real. Us against them. My breath caught, the proposal hanging absurd and perfect. Mike, I'm done hiding. Job's transferable. We could move to Columbus, start fresh. No more closets. His hands framed my face, thumbs brushing stubble. I love you. All in. Joy warred with terror, the logistics crashing in, uprooting from Mom's fragile orbit, facing Milford's backlash, rebuilding trust with Sarah. But in that dim closet of all places, irony's cradle, I whispered, yes. We didn't announce it right away. First, repairs. Dinners with Sarah, raw and real, her therapy sessions spilling into hours over wine at her apartment. I felt stupid, she admitted once, twisting a napkin. But not broken. You too. If it's honest, maybe I can root for it. Forgiveness wasn't linear, but it bloomed tentative, like crocuses after frost. Mom took it in stride, hugging Michael at her kitchen table. About time you boys manned up, she teased, eyes twinkling. Just promise me grandbabies someday. Adopted, whatever. I need someone to spoil. The engagement was quiet. A ring from a Cincinnati jeweler, simple silver with a sapphire inlay, slipped on during a hike in Hocking Hills, leaves turning crimson around us. We planned a small ceremony for spring, courthouse, then a backyard barbecue with who cares who comes. But life, that bastard, had other scripts. October brought the storm. Michael's firm audited his accounts, irregularities from stress-fueled corner cutting, nothing malicious but enough to flag suspicions. Embezzlement vibes, his boss emailed tersely. Suspension pending investigation, the kind that sticks like tar. Then Uncle Ray, ever the vulture, contested Tom's will. Moral turpitude, he claimed, arguing Michael's lifestyle voided inheritance. The farmhouse, the savings, slipping away in lawyer letters. Panic set in. Michael withdrew, nights pacing our shared apartment. I'd sublet to him post-honeymoon fallout, whiskey bottles multiplying. What if we lose everything? He'd mutter, shadows under his eyes. I'd pull him close, murmuring plans, backup jobs, thrift store resilience, but doubt festered. One night, after a voicemail from the firm's PI, "Need to discuss your personal associations, Mr. Reynolds," he snapped. "This is your fault, Chris. If I'd stuck with Sarah." The slap of words echoed louder than any hand. "My fault. You're the one who dragged us into this mess," I shouted back, chest heaving. He stormed out, tires screeching into the dark. Hours later, a text, at a motel. "Need space. Don't follow." I didn't sleep, replaying the fracture. His fear mirroring the town's, my push for authenticity now a noose. Sarah called at dawn. "He's with me." Crashing on the couch. "Talk to him, Chris, but gently. He's scared shitless." I drove over, rain slicking the streets, finding them in her kitchen. Michael hunched over coffee, Sarah mediating like a weary referee. "We can't do this," he said flatly when I sat. "The pressure. It's crushing us." Sarah shot him a look. "Or it's an excuse to run." The argument spilled, accusations flying like shrapnel, his internalized shame, my impatience, the town's invisible noose. "I thought we were building something." I choked, tears hot. "Not just surviving." Michael reached across the table, tentative. "We are. But maybe. Slower. Without the rings, the rush." Sarah nodded. "Pause the wedding. Focus on the audit, the will. Love isn't a deadline." It wasn't resolution, but a ceasefire. We moved in together officially that weekend, boxes stacked like barricades, Mom's quilt on the bed a talisman. Therapy followed, couples sessions in Columbus, unpacking closets layer by layer. Michael opened up about his brother's overdose, the guilt that chained him to normalcy. I confessed my fear of abandonment, roots tangled in Dad's ghost. Progress was glacial, but real. Date nights at indie bistros, weekend drives to Cleveland's Rock Hall, hands intertwined without fear. Winter thawed into spring, the audit clearing Michael with a slap on the wrist, reprimand, no charges, and Uncle Ray's suit crumbling under scrutiny, the farmhouse deeded intact. Sarah started dating again, a quiet graphic designer from Akron. Our brunches resumed, laced with laughter that felt earned. But fate, that fickle scribe, wasn't done. In April, during a routine checkup, Michael's first since Tom's passing, the doctor delivered the blow, early-stage lymphoma, caught by chance. "Treatable," she assured, "with chemo and vigilance." The word treatable echoed hollow as we drove home, his hand limp in mine. "Cancer." The word lodged in our throats like a thorn, drawing blood with every swallow. Michael's diagnosis wasn't a death sentence, not like Tom's swift siege, but it was a thief, stealing appetites and sleep, turning our apartment into a fortress of pill bottles and appointment cards. Chemo started in May, infusions every 3 weeks at the James Cancer Center in Columbus, the drive there a ritual of audiobooks and bad diner coffee. He'd grip the armrest on the interstate, knuckles white, joking through the nausea. "If I lose my hair, you dumping me for a bald eagle?" I'd squeeze his thigh, voice steady. "Only if you start nesting in the fridge." The physical toll was brutal. Weight melting off his frame, once solid shoulders now sharp under flannel shirts. Mornings bent over the toilet, me rubbing circles on his back while he retched. But the emotional war was fiercer. Nights when he'd stare at the ceiling, whispering, "What if this is karma? For the lies, the hurt." I'd counter with facts, remission rates, survivor stats, but doubt was a virus of its own, infecting us both. Sarah rallied, bringing care packages of ginger chews and rom-com DVDs. Mom knitted chemo caps, her needles clicking like prayers. Even Uncle Ray thawed, mailing a card with gruff condolences. "Fight hard, nephew. Reynolds' blood, don't quit." We postponed the wedding indefinitely, the rings tucked in a drawer like dormant seeds. "When you're better," I'd say. kissing his temple during radiation fog. He'd nod, but his eyes held reservations, the illness stripping illusions, forcing reckonings. One evening, post-infusion haze, he turned to me in the recliner, for port still taped to his chest. "Chris, if it doesn't go well, promise you'll be okay. Find someone who doesn't come with this baggage." The request gutted me, a preemptive eulogy. "Shut up," I murmured, climbing into his lap despite the tangle of tubes. "We're in this, all the way. No outs." Summer unfolded in stolen normalcy. Porch swings with sweet tea, drives to Lake Erie where weed wade ankle-deep, waves lapping like tentative hope. His hair did fall, in soft clumps caught in the shower drain, but he shaved it clean, crowning the bald pate with a trucker hat mom embroidered with bald and beautiful. Laughter returned, fragile but fierce. Barbecues where Sarah grilled veggie burgers, toasting to second acts. The town gossip faded to white noise. Hargrove even bumped me to Foreman, muttering, "You've got grit, Hayes. Like your man." Remission whispers came in August, scans showing shrinkage, the oncologist's nod a victory lap. "Aggressive treatment paid off," she said, prescribing maintenance and monitoring. Michael hooped in the parking garage, spinning me until we dizzy laughed against the concrete pillar. "We're free," he breathed, forehead to mine. Not entirely. Scars lingered, checkups loomed, but the shadow lifted, allowing light. With fall's crisp bite, we dusted off the rings. No barnstorming affair, just us. Mom as witness, Sarah officiating in her stead as ordained online for shits and giggles. The courthouse in Columbus was stark, linoleum floors, a justice of the peace with a nasal drawl, but it was ours. Vows exchanged in a side room smelling of lemon polish, Michael's voice steady. "I promised to show up, every day, no more half measures." Mine cracked. "To hold you through the storms, because you're my safe harbor." Rings slid on, simple and sure, sealing not just us but the wreckage we'd navigated. The reception? Mom's backyard, strung with Edison bulbs and picnic tables groaning under potluck bounty. Her apple pie, Sarah's mac and cheese, Uncle Ray's dubious Jell-O salad as olive branch. 50 souls showed, shop buddies, a few Reynolds holdouts, even Hargrove with a cigar box of Cubans. Toasts flowed. Sarah's teary, "To love that bends but doesn't break." Mom's, "May your fights be loud and your makeup's louder." Michael and I danced to Springsteen, Thunder Road, full volume, his head on my shoulder, the world narrowing to our rhythm. But closure's a myth, echoes persist. That winter, Sarah announced her engagement, for real this time, to the designer, Alex, a quiet guy with a sketch pad and zero drama. We threw her shower, me in an apron flipping pancakes, Michael piping icing on cupcakes. "Full circle," she said, hugging us both. "Thanks for teaching me what real looks like. No grudges, just growth. Human, messy, American as pie." Years folded forward. Michael switched to nonprofit consulting, auditing grants for LGBTQ youth programs, his story fueling boardroom fire. I climbed to shop manager, specializing in electric conversions, greening Milford one hybrid at a time. We adopted a rescue mutt, Buster, who snored like a chainsaw and chased fireflies till his legs gave out. Mom downsized to a bungalow, us funding the down payment from wedding scraps and overtime. Checkups became annual, Michael's all-clears met with steak dinners and stargazing. Looking back, from that rusty anchor spark to this porch swing creak, Buster's head in my lap, Michael's hand warm in mine. It's a tapestry of thorns and triumphs. We betrayed, we broke, we rebuilt. Love isn't the absence of storm, it's the choice to dance in the rain. And on quiet nights, when the cicadas hum their ancient song, I pull him close and whisper, "Still worth it." He smiles, that crinkle-eyed one that started it all. Every damn mile.